Sorry.
Put it on. Show me. Good evening. Today we are going to discuss about the infrared course which you have almost undergone. Uh, Live session is scheduled today. I am Dr. Muskavi. Probably you must have seen me only in the video, and I have Mr. Rajiv. He is the technical assistant. He and I are going to manage our this show. And if you have any questions regarding this course, we will be very happy to answer. Before that, I have to tell you that the NPTEL authorities have already circulated a couple of about this program, and I have received about 9 questions. And even if you do not have any questions, still we are going to address it for the sake of brevity. And then let us see how we can go about managing the show today. It is all up to us now. You are also part of the program, and we are also part of the program. So feel free to say something or anything, how you felt about the course and what you have learned. Has it been useful? I also would like to know if I can add something more to the course as per your wishes, or what you feel that you could have learned more. Something has been omitted or not omitted, or some I might have gone in lot of detail uh, regarding couple of aspects. Probably you might have felt that it may be a little too much, etc. Let's have a discussion. So I see that we have Dr. Ganesh Prasad Mishra with us. Good evening, Dr. Mishra. And Ashish Bhatnagar is there, um, but he is not able to see the video. What is the problem?
I think now he'll be able to see.
Achha.
We were not live then.
Good evening, Ashish. Can they talk?
No, sir. They can only type. They will be
Okay.
able to type and then live.
I think we can have a discussion also.
Later
So,
on, sir.
right. So, we have Ashish and Dr. Ganesh Prasad. There are other people who may be here. I do not know, but I would be very happy to listen to your comments first. And then I will address, Dr. Rajiv also will address if there are any issues.
So we'll first take the questions which are discussed there, and
Ah.
then we'll come back to the people.
Sure, we can do that.
So
Yes,
the first
Rajiv.
question comes from Mr. Surendran,
Ah.
who asks, what are the other spectroscopy techniques available for pollution monitoring?
Pardon?
What are the other spectroscopy techniques available for pollution monitoring?
I see. So, Rajiv and Surendran, there are a host of spectrophotometric spectral techniques that can be employed for pollution monitoring. I have designed this whole course of NPTEL with respect to pollution control monitoring, because that is where people have to learn about the nuances of spectroscopy regarding their application. Nowadays, what is happening is in most of the challenges that we come across are in micro, trace, and ultra trace concentration in the environment. So, what do we mean by the environment? So, environment is that matrix in which a pollutant is in smallest concentration and the other matrix materials are in large quantities. So, the question of analyzing a particular constituent is something like searching the needles, how many needles are there in a haystack, instead of finding a needle, searching for a needle in the haystack. So the challenge is what other constituents or components of the matrix are having the effect on the analyte. So the analyte is the one in which we are interested, but the analyte spectrum is almost specific under the given circumstances for the sample in that matrix. So whatever are the other constituents of the matrix, they may or may not be able to influence the quality of the spectrum. So I hope, or I think almost all of you understand that the spectrum essentially represents a response to the concentration, and as it is a dynamic system, in the dynamic system what happens is we scan the matrix starting from zero concentration to maximum, and then complete the matrix scan until we reach the zero of the analyte. So so the analyte is in general going to define something like a Gaussian curve. So it will be like this, go up and come down, and then I think all of you are very familiar with the Gaussian curve. So the specificity of the analyte in the and with respect to matrix elements is the one that is going to give you fantastic response with respect to the concentration irrespective of the matrix components. That is where the speciality of spectroscopic techniques, or the essence of spectroscopic techniques, is most visible, because if there is analyte, there is a response, and if it is spectral response, it has to be specific to the analyte. That is where the relation between pollution control and analyte chemical analysis is going to be very, very important and critical. Based on the analytical systems, whatever spectral techniques you use, you will be able to identify, and number two, you are going to quantify the analyte. So what are the other techniques for chemical analysis? We can say spectrophotometry, which will permit you to do the chemical analysis of thousands and thousands of organic and almost all inorganic elements in one form or the other. Spectrophotometry, discovered somewhere around 1930s, has been the backbone of chemical analysis. You will be surprised to know that there are more than 30 million chemical analyses are performed every day all over the world only by spectrophotometry. And the other spectroscopic techniques are almost, specific to particular atomic structure, or the interaction of the matter with the components of the molecule. So what are the components of the molecule? Atoms, electrons, protons, and neutrons, etc. So starting from one end of the one end of the electromagnetic radiation, we have gamma rays, which can be used for the analysis of magnetic materials. That is what is known as Mossbauer spectrometry. And then we have X-rays. I'm coming from the higher side of the frequency. So after gamma rays, there are X-rays, which will interact with the transition of the elements, transition of the electrons from one level to another inside the nucleus. And then there are nuclear reactions are there, but they are not covered by spectroscopic technique. Then we have vacuum ultraviolet, ultraviolet, and visible spectrophotometry, which I have discussed just now. After that, we have near infrared. That is another technique which can be used for organic compounds, especially the matrix, where the matrix is very, very complicated. we can use near infrared that has not been covered so far in its entirety. That means there is a lot of scope for research, method development, and standardization of the components of a chemical or a mixture with respect to pollution control. And then we have infrared that deals with the vibrations of the electrons in the um, vibration and rotational modes. Then we have electron spin resonance, and then we have the other radio analytical techniques, NMR, and most of them are spectroscopic techniques. I think that covers essentially the spectroscopic techniques in relation to pollution control. Uh, that means in relation to the components present in the air, water, and other metrics that are present in the environment. There are other techniques also. For example, there you can say, what about NMR? Definitely, NMR is a spectroscopic technique. Unfortunately, NMR has not been utilized in the atomic in pollution control so much because its purpose is different and outcome will be different based on the properties of the compounds what we are looking for. So I hope I have answered your question.
Sir, there is the next question comes from a student called as Anguraj Molishankar.
Angaraj Moli Shankar. Huh?
Her question is with respect to, can you shed a little more light on IR interpretation and the peaks?
That is a very good question, Angaraj. No?
Yes.
Angaraj, that is a very good question. Unfortunately, what I have taught you does not give you full expertise on the spectroscopic infrared spectrometry, rather utilization and peak interpretation. So it is what I am trying to tell you is almost every functional group present in an organic molecule presents an IR response. So that IR response is dependent upon the interaction of the electrons in the vibrational and rotational modes, but it also depends upon this stereo specificity as well as it depends upon the number of other um, steric effects. So it is very difficult to master IR interpretation with respect to only by reading. You have to be working in that area, keep on looking at many spectrums taken under identical conditions, and then you need at least, well, according to me, at least about 6 months experience in interpreting an IR spectrum if you want to work in an IR spectrum. So nowadays, of course, there is a lot of database available. Many of the IR spectrums are available. But the point is, if you have a mixture of substances which are IR active, IR spectroscopy cannot differentiate with respect to each of the components. So that leads to complication. So what I have tried to teach you in this course is to learn the essence of infrared, and then I have introduced you. Actually, I have spent more than 1.5 hours trying to teach you where the IR peaks appear. But even if I give you the frequencies of the IR appearance, um, it may be very difficult in real life situation, because if it is in the vapor form, the peak shape will be different. If it is in a liquid form, solution form, peak shape will be different. If it is solid, again it will be different. So you need lot of experience in that. That you have to get it by trial and error and learn it hard way. That is from a teacher. So if you have a good organic chemistry teacher well versed in infrared, you can learn very fast from him. That is where I want to stop the answer here. But I think, Kangraj, I have been able to convince you.
Yes, as far as IR interpretation goes,
Hmm.
it is typically used in chemical synthesis and analysis of the synthetic materials.
That is true.
So, with respect to pollution control, etc., you would have very few characteristic spectra which you can probably identify. If you have a couple of, if you can probably get very easily the spectra for most of the IR compounds available online. So,
Definitely, definitely. The point of discussion here would be air pollutants, which can be taken as IR response. Their IR responses can be correlated to their concentrations. And then there are a petrochemical industry where IR is very effective to control their emissions. And then there are something like specialist studies where the uh, the petrochemical burning burning products, combustion products, can be uh, can be identified and quantified. For example, when you burn petrol,
right,
there will be more than 400 or 500 compounds coming out,
right,
aldehydes, ketones, and
right.
several other things. So, the study of the combustion products, infrared is the only way we know how many compounds are there, what type of compounds are there, etc.
Right.
Definitely, it will be useful, but it's not the only technique. It has to be complementary or supplementary to other
Other
techniques
techniques as well.
to evaluate the total effects. Huh?
I think that question, Angaraj, is opens up a big chapter in infrared spectroscopy itself, interpretation of IR. And at present, this 4-week course is not sufficient enough, or gives a much broader idea of an IR course.
No, no.
And
Yes,
and as a result, if we do want to go for an IR interpretation, it will take slightly longer and much more in-depth understanding of it. Here, with the idea of with a very broad base of infrared teaching, we are trying to bring it this also as a flavor to the subject, so that you get an idea that this also can be done as
there
well.
is another aspect that if you know this basic subject, then you can proceed for further specialization. That is where the value of this course comes in picture. So to treat this course as a base for doing further things that can challenge your intellectual capabilities.
Now let us move away from the regular
Mhm.
questions which have been asked
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
We'll take a live question asked by Dr. Ashish Bhatnagar.
Ashish,
Dr. Ashish Bhatnagar asks,
uh,
Sir, is 3n minus 6 formula useful in evaluating number of peaks for a polymeric material? For example, in case of acrylates. Now, because
very interesting question.
I think that needs to be addressed,
Yeah,
whether the
sure,
3n
sure, sure.
minus 6 gives the freedom of rotation for polymeric
Sure, sure,
materials also.
sure. Uh, Dr. Ashish, it's a very interesting question. I do not think that can be your answer should be my answer should be positive for that. There are two or three reasons that that need to be understood with respect to polymers. First of all, in case of acrylates, we do not know exactly how many molecules, how many atoms are there in a acrylate polymer. The molecular weight may vary from 10,000 to 50,000 or even more than that. Then another point is when I say 50,000, I do not necessarily mean 50,000 atoms in the molecule. Here, this formula refers to the total number of atoms present in the compound. So if I can really address and find out how many exactly how many atoms are there in the given sample in which you put inside the spectrophotometer, that is infrared spectrometer, in that molecule, if you can really identify how many atoms are there, definitely this formula can be applied. But there could be again plus or minus some percentage you have to allow, because some of them could be forbidden transitions. Some of them could be the uh, the peaks where similar peaks overlap on one another. So it's almost impossible. My answer should be negative. I hope you understand the complexities of the answer, which needs to be, interpreted for this question. It's a very interesting question. I think we should be able to apply this principle as a quality control where they are producing the acrylate polymers. That is at the production level, not as a polymer in the environmental field. So, very good question. Thank you very much. A very interesting question.
Um, Now, the other question is with respect to Mr. Ashish, Dr. Ashish Bhatnagar itself. He had asked me a question in the forum
Forum.
with
Ah,
respect
ah,
to
ah.
the primary angle of radiation of 250 nanometers. This was with respect to number of diffraction and the grating question.
Hmm.
So he needed to know what will be the answer and the explanation for each of those answers. So if you can probably give him the idea of how that particular diffraction grating worked and how to get the answer. I told him that we are not at liberty to give out the answer of the assignments directly, but I can probably address this question in a forum like this. So if you could tell him how that diffraction grating and how that particular thing could be worked out, it would be great.
Yeah, Ashish, the point is there is only one equation that is prevalent, that is used. N lambda is equal to 2 d sine theta. That is the Bragg's equation. And there could be, you will have to assume that the interaction of the number of planes, number of cuts in the prism or in the grating should be addressed. And there are a couple of problems solved in um, in what is that book? No, Skoog also. That is the reference book we have already given you. And one more is the Willard Merit ending. If you study that, I don't think you will have any difficulty in understanding the answer to your question. Especially um, the problems what I have given are meant for understanding the phenomena rather than testing your knowledge. If you study those solved problems and look at this problem, I'm sure you will be able to find out. Definitely, it can. It should not be a problem. Still, if you cannot do that, please let me know, or Rajiv here, the question, and we'll try to answer it
On a one-to-one basis.
on one-to-one basis. I can, because I do not know whether others have the similar question in their mind. So, actually, I have taught that kind of subject in almost every course of mine. That is in spectrophotometry, in atomic absorption, in infrared, and then in electrochemistry, and there is one more on redox reaction. That is electrochemical program, and ICP also, inductive coupled plasma. MOOC courses are available in all these subjects, and I have taught similar things in that also. You may refer to them. Hmm? I hope you will excuse me if I am not very explicit in answering that question, but definitely we will take a look at. You should be able to find out the answer yourself. It's not a very complicated problem.
So the question was such: what is the primary angle at which radiation of 250 nanometers
Hmm.
is diffracted at normal to the incident light by grating ruled at 13 grooves per millimeter?
Yeah, I think you just have to solve it because it is an assignment question. I will have to address it on one-to-one basis only.
Dr. Ashish, if it's okay, then we'll address this question on a personal basis. Uh, Maybe I can give this out as a couple of more workaround problems as such in the assignment or probably in the announcement. And a couple of more questions we can take now. Uh, this is with respect to certain questions with respect to the exam itself. Uh, They have a morning exam and an afternoon exam. How do we change it?
I do not understand the question. What is
Because
that?
I have applied the exam session, the morning session, but I have got mail in the afternoon session. What is to be done? I think this particular question with respect to your timing of your exam will probably have to be decided with the support
You
team
will
of
have
the
to contact the
NPTEL.
NPTEL office only. They should be able to address it because I do not know what is the other exam you are taking. Okay, so let us see how we can help you if you need something.
This question was asked by Farzana.
Farzana.
This other question from Ishwarya is whether marks allotted for a particular question will be given along with the question, sir. I think
We
whether
have
the
given.
yes. So each question which is going to come in your exam is going to be associated with a particular mark, which is going to be displayed anyway along with the question paper as
I
well.
think all of you might have got the template of the examination, but we have divided the question paper into 1 mark questions, 2 mark questions, and 5 mark questions. And even in the 5 mark questions, there may be, A, B, C or something like that. So I think you should be, once you see the question paper, you will be able to understand the grading system also. Marks, how much it carries and things like that. Should not be difficult, Farzana. Okay? Farzana, you may type something with respect to, with reference to my response. Clear, not clear,
No,
okay,
she's
not
not
okay.
No, she's not online, sir.
Okay, she's not on. She is not online. Sorry. I think we will post it. We'll post the answer to her.
So one more Gajanan asked this question. Sir, I'm a student of your course. It is a pleasure. It would have been better if it was for a longer period of duration. How many questions are you going to ask in the final exam? Would it be fair to ask 100 questions?
No, it will be total 50, I think.
Yes.
There are total 50 questions. Gajanan, you are not online now.
No, he's also not online.
Gajanan is not online. There are total 50 questions, and all of them
have associated marks.
25, I think.
25.
The total, sorry, 25 questions are there. First part, section A, will be carrying 1 mark, or section B will be 2 marks or something like that. So about 20 to 25 questions are there, all in all.
So apart from that, we have answered most of the other questions. Others are all related to the exam and how it's going to be conducted per se. So if there are any questions with respect to the examination or the timing of the examinations, you can definitely put it up on the Google forum and Google groups, and I will try to address them. If I cannot, I will recommend it to the support NPTEL team.
Yeah.
If with respect to technical questions, you can definitely still continue to post them.
Sure.
Just because the course
until the exam, I am available to you as a teacher. After that, I am available to you as a mentor, or as a guide, or whatever you call it. After that also, I am available to you. I think I have given you my mobile number and email address, etc. Even if you don't have it, you can still collect it from NPTEL or call me at 944 96 70 938. Call me, contact me.
So I'll send the information by.
Yeah, sure. That is my number. You can call me at this number anytime. Ashish, thank you very much. Please try to solve it. You should be able to do that.
So I think we can come to the closure of the online session.
If
But
there
we
are no
some
questions, we will definitely look at look at your participation in the course and in the level of achievement in the exam. And I wish you all the best.
we'll be willing to wait for another 5 minutes. If there are any
We will-
particular questions to be asked, you can definitely put it
Another,
up.
not 5 minutes, 2 minutes, because there are many people. Uh, Only two are there, I think, today, no?
Yeah. I think the Google Forms are still open. You can definitely put on your questions there and on Google Groups or on the Google Form. And if there are any more questions, we'll be happy to take it now.
So, if there are no questions, probably I would like to say thank you for.
Just a minute,
all
sir.
of
One
you.
more question has just come in.
Oh, nice.
Dr. Santosh Kumar
Ah.
is a faculty.
Mm.
He asks how is IR spectroscopy, how the IR spectroscopy monitor the pollution? I think it's with respect to the course itself.
We have already answered that question.
Dr. Santosh Kumar, if you could probably make it more specific with respect to what is the question you want to ask, specific question, because this topic was introduced earlier. I mean, this question has been addressed earlier in the
Addressed
introduction.
earlier today itself.
So, if the
In the
question
morning.
if you can make it a little more specific,
Specific,
we can be
yeah.
able to answer that question.
But Santosh Kumar's question is not yet. Yeah. Oh. This will be available to them recorded version.
YouTube direct.
Direct
Yeah,
YouTube.
well, you can send it to them.
When you say that
Yeah, the recording of this video.
recorded version.
Yeah, it will be there on the NPTEL live session
Yes.
IISc. The link can be given to you as an announcement later on as well, if necessary. Otherwise, the link you can always come and subscribe here as well. If there are no more questions, then we'll probably end the session here. Your closing remarks, Professor.
Yeah, I think I would like to thank all of you for taking this course, and there will be many more courses coming along, coming from my stable. I would like to teach as many of you as possible and give you good training, and my best wishes to you always, and you can approach me anytime because you are my student. One time my student, always I am your teacher, and always you are my student. Of course, you may become my guru also at some stage. I do not know at this time.
And you
but
wish, and you would bless
I
them
do
for that.
wish I bless you all. Huh? So thank you very much, and all the best.